Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond BMR. And of course, I am your host, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Thanks to everybody for coming on in this Tuesday night, November the 7th. Joining me in Studio B is not Tex. Nope, it's not Tex. Don't worry, Tex is all right. We had to do some scheduling adjustments, so my lovely, from the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, Krista Tweedy, is now taking over. She's taking the co-captain's chair for this show, and Tex will be with me on Brunch with Bigfoot Mr. Rob on Tuesdays. So we swapped it out. Beyond BMR goes beyond the mysteries of the world. We take you down a deep dive to all the rabbit holes. Do they come full circle? What's going on with that out there? From Bigfoot to Dogman, UFOs, aliens, from time travel, to the paranormal. How do these phenomena come together? Tonight, Mid-Florida Bigfoot Research Group joins me. Marie Dumont, Chris Hensley will be joining us shortly. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube, and of course, Texas Front Porch, all found on YouTube. You can find us on Subspace Radio, iHeartRadio, and KPNL Radio. Thank you to the lovely Ann Celine, now in Texas, formerly of Oregon. The Super Chat is open, everybody, and the Super Chat is a great way to help support what we do around here. Donations are also very appreciative. Don't forget, and thank you to everybody who's bought my book, Bigfoot Michigan Rob Presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1, found on Amazon. The link is posted, and it'll be in the posting of this video. Do me a favor. When Amazon contacts you, leave a review. It helps the analytics. It's all analytics these days, everybody. It's all analytics. With that being said, here's a rundown of our great shows we have throughout the week. On Mondays is Texas Front Porch. You'll find Tex and the lovely Brandy, 7 Central, 8 in the East, new time. So make a note of that. Tuesday nights, Beyond BMR with myself and Krista, 8 Central, 9 in the East. On Texas Front Porch is the Diva Dimension. She comes on 9 Central and 10 in the East. Thursdays, right back with me and Tex, Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. We come on 12 Central and 1 in the East. So come on and check us out on that one. Saturdays, Tex on Texas Front Porch. If you're into true crime, he does Infamous Minds, and you can find that on YouTube on his channel, 2 o'clock Central and 3 o'clock in the East. So thank you for that. Love y'all. Thanks for coming on in. We've got a great show for you. Before we get started, I'm going to bring up my new late night co-host, Miss Krista.
Hey.
Hey, buddy.
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Me too. Started a new job. Everything's going good.
I was going to ask you about that. You got a new job going?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hence the change with Tex and I.
Yeah, the change. Well, that's good. It's, you've been doing this for me. I look back, Krista. We've been together on the prior show for a year now.
Wow.
This is time fly. We're having fun. I got to think Catherine Gay became a YouTube member. Catherine Gay is now a BMR pirate. You can join if you want to be a pirate. Go ahead and join. Thanks, Catherine, for that. I do appreciate you. You're very awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah. So, now we flip-flopped, and now you're on a 9, and Tex did the flip-flop. So I'm very excited about it. And it's good for a change. A year of the same thing,
Right.
It's a nice little change. Little change.
Yep. No, I'm glad to be here. I didn't want to give you up, Rob.
Yeah, I know. Well, I didn't try to get rid of you because I love you. You're awesome. You're a fantastic host. And by the way, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast is a fantastic show. And speaking of the shows, perfect segue. I already did it. Did I say the Blondes and Booze Thursdays and Friday nights, or did I just say text?
You went to Tex, and then you went to Infamous Mind.
Did I skip you? The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal. See, I rewrote my. See, we're redoing the schedule. So my two lovely Brandy and Kristen and Brandy, love them both equally. They're on Thursdays and Fridays.
Yep.
And that would be, you guys didn't change your time, did you?
Not yet, but we're talking about maybe going a half hour sooner. So
okay, well that will be determined later. So right now you're currently on at 9 Central. No, you're on. My God, you're not written down here. 8 Central, 9 in the East.
There you go. You got it.
You know, I rely on the computer too much for all this.
I hear you. I do the same thing.
Writing. What's writing? What's a pen? What's a pen these days?
Right. So
thanks for everybody for coming on in. We do appreciate you. And we got a great lineup tonight. We've got a couple of. This is a big Florida, mid-Florida, Bigfoot, skunk ape, if you will, expedition research team. And
awesome.
you can also find them on. They have a Facebook group. We'll provide all the links later on in the show. And they just got back from a little research, and they've also sent me some cool pictures to talk about. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Marie and Chris. Ladies first, of course. Hi, Marie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. And there is Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hello. How you doing?
Well, we're doing great. And first of all, I always like to thank everybody that comes on the show for taking time out of their busy schedules. I do appreciate that. And, it's funny, Marie, how I came across you was, being that I'm, of course, into Bigfoot and have a show and all this. And I joined your group on Facebook some time back. And I follow it. I look at it. I said, boy, I got to have this team on because I find you guys to be do exceptional work out in the field, and as well, Chris, you're a member, obviously, so you have a great team, and your team is a lot bigger than this. Of course, not everybody can make it on the same night. I get it.
Right.
So, if you want, I guess Marie, we'll start with you. How did the group form, and why the interest in Bigfoot?
Well, I've been a paranormal investigator for over 30 years. So it first started with ghost hunting, and then after that, it was aliens and UFOs, and do sky watches and stuff all the time. And I still do, and I still go ghost hunting and stuff like that. But I had some friends of mine who were into Bigfoot, and I was like, I don't know about this. So I went to the Ocala National Forest with them. We looked around, blah, blah, blah. Saw some strange stuff. And I was like, huh. And then we did a camp out there one night about 5 years ago in January. It was the coldest night of the year. At about 1:30 in the morning, heard this huge, loud, long, lengthy vocalization that most people would describe as being like a classic Ohio Bigfoot call. It was amazing. 3 other people heard it. Everybody else was talking. Nobody was paying attention, but we heard it. It was very loud. And that got me hooked. That was it. And I'm like, oh my God, that was amazing. It was just one vocalization at 1:30 in the morning. And that was it.
That's all it took, huh?
That's all it took. So then I started to go out in the woods by myself, And then I was trying to find a Facebook group that specialized like in Florida research. And at the time, there wasn't really anything. And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to start my own group. Because I needed a place to post my stuff, because I was posting my stuff on my personal page, which, I don't want my employer saying I'm a Bigfoot fanatic.
Yeah.
And so it just wasn't the right place at the time. So I started the group and eventually started going out with people, meeting people. And I met Mike. And then, I met Ruby. And then through Mike, we met Chris because they're best friends. And so it's been marvelous. Marvelous. We also have David Shealy, the skunk expert. He's an honorary member of our team as well. And we also have Bill and Bettina. Bill Hewitt, he's a cryptozoologist. He's down in South Florida, and his wife, Bettina, and they're honorary members of our teams as well.
Okay.
So
Very cool.
So when you heard that first vocalization or vocalization, however you want to say it, it didn't scare you off. You were like,
No.
I like you already. You're like, now this.
no,
It drew you to it.
I didn't sleep at all in the tent.
I wouldn't sleep either. I wouldn't sleep.
But no, it didn't like scare me. It was amazing. You know, when you're into the paranormal, not much scares you, right, Krista?
That's true.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm still one that's scared of the paranormal. Now, well, Krista and Brandy have kind of got me off the ledge a little bit because I've had way more paranormal experiences than Bigfoot. I did have a Bigfoot story. I don't know if you heard it, Marie or Chris. I'm not going to talk about that today. I'll share it with you one day. But yeah, and when this thing yelled and screamed and he roared at me and I saw it, and I'm like, whoa.
Right.
But that's all I'm going to say right now about that. So Chris, how did you end up getting teamed up with Marie? You've always been a Bigfoot enthusiast or researcher, or what's your background a little bit?
I've always been an outdoor natures type of guy. Like to spend more time outdoors than inside. But no, I ended up being neighbors with Mike. Unfortunately, Mike can't be here tonight, but you know, I thought he was a little bit crazy, and he was showing me these pictures, and he showed me the casts, these huge footprints, and I ended up getting him a job where I was working at the time, so it kind of helped him out, and you know, eventually he talked me into going out to the woods with him, and kind of never turned back from that point. It's like a rabbit hole you fall into, and you know, here now I'm doing podcasts and have a Facebook group, and never would have, you know, thought about it ever happening, you know, but at the same time, when you're out there and you see things and you hear things and things just don't add up, you know, you just start to really scratch your head and wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd like to ask really quickly too to both of you, were you in let's just go back 20 years. Did you believe that Bigfoot existed, or I know, Marie, you've been a paranormal investigator for many years and such. So when you first saw Bigfoot, like me, I saw the Leonard Nimoy, and then I saw the Patterson film. Did you always think that these cryptids did exist, or was it until hearing that unusual vocalization was said, man, this is not an animal of the forest?
Well, I mean, I kind of always thought that they existed because of all the stories and stuff. But at the time, I didn't know that we had that many in Florida. You know, Florida is ranked number 3 in the United States for the most reported sightings, according to the BFRO. Number 1 is Washington, of course. Number 2, California, but Florida is number 3.
Wow.
So most people don't know that.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that.
So-
Now, of course, I'm sorry, Chris, really quick.
Good. I was going to ask a question. I know Florida's known for the skunk ape. Is a skunk ape a Bigfoot, or is it something different?
Before you answer that, Marie, Krista, that's why we got this paranormal connection, because we must have done some telepathy or something.
Right.
Because that was going to be my question.
I beat you to it.
You did. You felt it. That's why you got it out before me.
That's it.
Yeah. So we tend to believe that we have both here. And that's because the reports throughout Florida are different. Like Central Florida to North Florida, the reports are very different than what you hear south Florida. Like the North Florida is more of the typical 6 to 9 foot, you know, reddish color, Bigfoot, you know, with 5 toes, la la la. But when you get south of Central Florida, like starting around Mayaca and down, the reports are very different. They're more like 5 to 7 feet tall. They're much skinnier. long arms, and they have 4 toes versus 5 toes. So, we don't know if it's a product of evolution or don't know, but we do seem like we have 2 different species here.
It could have something to do with the I don't know what you call it. It's basically the forestry changes. Like, so you don't have any oak trees once you get south of mid Florida, central mid Florida, down south. It turns into all pine trees and cabbage palm. So the whole terrain, everything changes. You can see, Tampa North, you'll see oak trees and a mix of stuff. So I think that terrain has something to do with it, personally.
Yeah, and I'm even beginning to wonder about the 4 toes as well. I mean, most castings that people that have produced 5 toes typically, the 4 toes is really, I haven't seen many of those, and it begs to wonder if it's even it's probably of the Bigfoot family. Even I wonder.
Hold on, let me get the cast for you. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, there's been some reports even all the way up as far as Canada that have 4 toes.
No, I definitely know about them. It always just makes me. That's why this field is so open to wondering. Because if you see a 3-toed, I've heard that's a gugwe, not for the gugwe creature.
Okay.
So,
this is a cast.
Okay. Wow.
Can you see?
Yeah, that was
4
perfect. Backing up
toes.
I could definitely
right
the big
there.
toe.
Look at the
3
huge big toe, and there's 4 toes
Jeez.
there.
Wow.
This was cast. This is an 11-inch print that was cast by Dr. Bill Hewitt and Dave Miller in Big Cypress National Reserve. So, we don't know, but look at the size of that big toe.
That's awesome.
Well, I was about to say that big toe, and now definitely 4 toes, and I wasn't doubting you guys at all. Thank you so much, Amy, for the super chat. The 4 toes, the big or enormous big toe, then the 3 other toes. That's very distinct. It wasn't cut off. It was perfectly aligned like a foot.
Yeah. So, but like David Shealy, the ones that he has down in the Everglades, they're longer toes, and there's 4. So we don't know.
That's really interesting.
I joke about those being lizard man.
Lizard man.
Well,
I wonder if it's just like, like there's all different kinds of races with humans, who's to say there's not with like the Bigfoot too?
Of course. Yeah. There's different, humans, humans look different around the world or whatever. There's a rule called Bergman's rule that basically says that the closer you get to the equator, the smaller the animals get.
Yeah, and I believe that, especially with like deer and that kind of
because of the heat and humidity down in Florida. Do you think 800-pound Bigfoot could survive down in the Everglades when it's the feel like temperature is 109?
Sure.
And stuff? No. So they have to be thinner, skinnier, smaller. The deer in the Keys, they're called key deer. They look like dogs.
They're dwarfs.
They're dwarf, very small.
Wow.
But they're closer to the equator. So, so that may be also why there's a difference here. So,
yeah. Like you said, the food and stuff, I would think too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Pretty crazy.
So,
go ahead, Rob.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. It just, I
was going to say that there's some pictures that I've got here to show and for you guys to talk about. But before we get into that, so we talk about Bigfoot, Sasquatch throughout, the lower 48 in Alaska, and we hear about the terrain, the environment. Now, typically, say the further north you go, might be bigger Bigfoot, Pacific Northwest. Here in Michigan, they get maybe 8-9 foot, and in the south, I hear they might be a little shorter. But let me ask you, and typically you have the black, the brown and black, the reddish brown. Mine that I saw is a reddish brown. But I've talked to a lot of people because of just the environment of Florida. Depending in Florida, maybe it's more so in the South. But have you heard about them blending in the jungles of Florida, being of a green shade at all? Has anybody ever
I
brought that
haven't.
up to you?
No,
Hmm.
no. The only thing I've ever heard is occasionally white, which would be grayish,
Mhm.
right? There's some gray ones, white ones out there. There was a recent sighting outside of Tampa of a white one that was in a ditch by the road,
Wow.
and but they're usually red. They're like cinnamon red, reddish brown, or black. Those are the typical reports.
Yeah. And I only brought that up because several people told me that lived in South Florida. So I'm like, okay, but since you are from Florida, I did want to pose that question to you. And to me, green just doesn't seem right.
Maybe
When
somebody
when
walking
you're
around in a ghillie suit or something.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
I mean,
There you go.
and there's another thing too with the environments. I don't know what your theory is on this, but a lot of people say that because Bigfoot can cloak, or they're hard to see, or they can materialize out of a tree, which we can get in that a little bit later, between the difference between maybe a paranormal side and a flesh and blood side. But
Mhm.
some people are of the opinion, and a couple of researchers that are pretty well renowned that told me this, that they believe that the fibers of their hair is translucent.
Mhm.
So in other words, they can just blend into any.
Mhm.
So maybe if you're in South Florida and they have this translucent hair, that it kind of blends right in, and maybe they were given that shade. I don't know.
Mhm.
What's your thoughts on the hair fiber?
Yes, I've heard the same thing about that, and that may be part of their how people say they cloak. Maybe they just turn to the side or something, and their hair can change colors or appearances.
Mhm.
Maybe if they turn behind a tree, and people may think, oh, it just disappeared. In reality, it just may be a hair
Mhm.
reflection or something,
Sure.
or
Mhm.
perfect camouflage.
Yeah,
You
they
know?
are translucent and they do reflect light at different
Mhm.
colors too, if when they're viewed underneath
Mhm.
the microscope and they have a scaly look. So that's very possible. We know that polar bears are actually black, but when you see them, they're white, right? It
Mhm.
has to do with their hair.
When I heard that, I was like, what?
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just a prime example of what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, Marie was so generous. She sent me all these photos, right? And I don't know which ones to pick from here. So I'm gonna
Eeny,
fire
meeny,
up a
miny,
couple.
mo.
You
Yeah.
pick your
So
favorites, okay?
well,
I'm sure there
now
were
they're on
some.
this little screen, so I don't even know what they are, to be honest. But I know there's a lot of
Sometimes you
good ones.
just throw them
But
up and
but
we'll
I
talk
think
about
this
them.
might be your pretty face, Marie, smiling in the background. I think.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, there we are.
Yeah.
Well, it's about
Yes.
an egg.
Yes. Yes.
That.
So, this is in our gifting area, our undisclosed active area that we've been monitoring now for a couple of years. So near our gifting area, what, Chris? About how far away? 10 feet away from the gifting area?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was within 15 feet, no doubt.
So Ruby, we were checking out the area where Mike had put out peanut butter cups and all that stuff. And Ruby was like, hey, look at this over here. And there is a chicken egg that has been like, opened up at the bottom or whatever, sucked out, I guess. And then something placed it on top of that cypress knee. Now, just so you know, there is a chicken coop near this spot, maybe 100 yards away or something like that.
At least 100 yards away.
Yeah. So, hard to believe that would be a raccoon that would take an egg from the chicken coop, walk 100 yards, and put it over by our
Right.
gifting spot and climb up and stick it on top of a cypress knee
Perfect.
Right.
perfectly. That's really suspicious.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
Isn't
I
it?
like that. That's very cool.
Mhm.
Thanks.
It
Thanks
is
for
very
sending.
cool.
That's
Mm.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
This one here, I'm guessing. I'm again trying to squint. This seems to be some sort of I can't. It looks. I'll just pull it up.
Okay, same area. This is one of the most recent finds that we've had in our area. I don't know if you're going to show the other picture, but it all started a couple of years ago. We saw 2 sticks about 10 to 12 feet long that were shoved in the ground at about a 30-degree angle, and they're pointed in the same direction.
Mhm.
And then a year later, a third one was added to the same spot. Okay. Then about 3 months ago, we went back there to check things out, and this was new.
Wow.
Where a stick was laid down, and then 3 again pointing the same direction. This is all the same area, the
Right.
exact same area. So we've got 2 sets of 3 sticks that have been
Wow.
positioned by something.
Very cool.
And they're all positioned like this, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I know you had told me backstage that you guys try to get out every weekend. Someone does. Do you go to the same location every weekend, or do
No.
you try different?
No,
No.
we kind of rotate around. We try
Gotcha.
something new, or
Okay.
like 2 weeks ago, Ruby and I went to this park that we haven't been able to get into in like 5 months because the river's been flooded, so it floods the swamp. So then you have to wait until the river goes down, and then you got to wait till the swamp dries up.
Gotcha.
So it's been
Okay.
5 months. So
Wow.
Let me ask you this again. I don't want you to even mention where your main spots are, but you have a variety of areas you go to.
Mhm.
Do you find that the locations, however, where you spend the most time, that maybe you get the most activity?
oh yeah.
Or is that because my theory behind that is they're probably used to you, right? They're used to your presence.
Well, definitely in our active area for sure. They're very familiar with Mike. They're very comfortable with Mike. He's been out there quite a bit, and so he seems to have a relationship going on with them. So, and like when he goes back there, he'll make some kind of like cooing noises, something that's kind of peaceful, something that's kind of like, okay, I'm here. And so he just does that. But he does seem to have some kind of relationship going on out there.
Yeah. And we've seen evidence of that. Just weird things happening. And then he'll make a call, and then instantly everything stops.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it's just the weirdest thing. It's like all of a sudden, oh, okay, it's Mike. No problem.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
We've definitely seen that happen.
Remember the birds? That happened
Yes.
like with the birds. Remember that?
Mhm.
In our active area, we went further deeper into the swamp, and we came across this area where all of a sudden all these birds started squawking, and they were different birds. There were like crows. There was
Started off with 3 or 4 crows circling us. I
Mhm,
mean, they're
and
right
then-
overhead. They're tattletaling big time.
and then hawks.
Yep,
And then
red-shouldered
owls.
hawk came in.
Wow.
We probably had 15 birds going off at the same time.
It was a cacophony of birds. It was the weirdest thing. And
It
then
was
we had the vibe, something was going on.
Mhm.
You felt like you're being watched. There's all kinds of weird structures right in the spot. We'd never been there before.
Mhm.
And it was just a really weird situation. So go ahead, and I'll let you continue, Marie.
No, it's okay. So then Mike did his cooing noise.
Mhm.
All stopped. All these birds
Instantly.
stopped. It was the weirdest thing. So
Wow.
we don't know what that's about, but
Because usually they say, Bigfoot or something like that's in the area, everything goes quiet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
if you get grunted at or growled at, yeah,
Mhm.
that does happen. But
Wow.
with these birds, it was like they were tattletailing on us big time.
oh, it
And
was
then
crazy.
when he
They're
made
like-
that call, it just went dead silent from
I've
them.
never heard so many birds out there in the swamp before like that.
Wow.
It was just like we were like, what is going on? And it was at least three different types of birds, like
Wow.
15 of them. and they were just going crazy.
There were 4 of us there, and we
Yeah.
got it on audio.
Yep.
I think
Mhm.
Jeff might
Jeff
even got it on
filmed
video.
it. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it was
crazy.
interesting.
Crazy.
They say that like Bigfoot can impersonate like owls. Did you actually see the owls, or could it maybe have been
No.
a Bigfoot?
No, we
Yeah.
didn't see them, but we've definitely
it was an owl.
heard
Yeah,
what sounds like something impersonating owls at times.
there you go. Mhm.
Like some of the noises, Chris.
hmm
Like it's kind of like a weak imitation of an owl.
Well, matter of
Right.
fact, that same time, one of the owls, I put it on a spectrogram and analyzed it, and you can see one of the owls looks like a real and sounds like a real owl, than the other one that was going on, because there's a couple of them, sounded like either a rough old beat up owl had seen better days, or something pretending to be the owl, but
Something
it didn't have the
pretending.
same frequency range or anything. It was
Yeah.
totally different.
That's awesome.
You know, I think that you guys would agree with this statement. I think that Bigfoot, Sasquatch, skunk ape, I think that they do a pretty good job of how should I say, of sensing danger, or sensing maybe when a human's around, or maybe another cryptid. I think they're good at that, but I also think they're excellent communicators with wildlife. I've heard many stories where coyotes would be like, oh, we give off their whistle, if you will, or their call, just to let Bigfoot know that, hey, there's something coming around, just giving you a heads up. I've heard that many times. Where you guys think that? You think they really are in tune with everything in Mother Nature?
Absolutely. I definitely do.
Yeah. I think they know your
I do.
intentions too when you're out there.
Again, boy, we're all on the same wavelength. Intentions.
Mhm.
I just learned that word like 3 months ago. I'm not going to get into it. Inside joke with Krista. Okay, I'm gonna pull up another couple more pictures. Yeah, I got so many cool ones. I don't know what they are. I can't, as I said, see them. I'm gonna go with this.
Okay, same spot. This is an area. There was just this mass of vines, and it is the perfect structure, like shelter for something. I mean, that's Mike there. He could definitely lay down there
Wow.
and take a nap if he wanted to.
Let me ask you one quick question. Do you think that's interwoven? Is that interwoven, or do you think that perhaps it just kind of fell there? Because to me, it doesn't look like it did.
I think it's a combination of both.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
think
It's not. It looks like a root ball, but it's not a root ball.
Right.
Wow.
That's what's weird about it. And there is a tree, and you can see the canopy back behind above it. It's really thick right there, but it almost appears like something had been laying stuff on top and kind of created that barrier there.
Adding additional palm fronds to it, So it's just the perfect shady place to hide, to take a nap. It's all pressed down under there. And so
I think any 3 of us would be more than willing to hang out there and take a nap, to be honest with you.
Definitely. Definitely.
And what do we got here? Okay.
This is the newest find in our area.
Cool.
So Mike had gone out there the day before. We were having David Shealy coming up to go on an investigation with us. So we wanted to take him to this secret spot. And so Mike put out peanut butter cups, and he also put out white lima beans. And the lima beans are what David Shealy likes to use down in the Everglades, because he says that they love them. So we just put them out just for the heck of it. The next day, we went there with David, and I noticed this tiny little X structure right in our gifting spot. That's like 12 inches big right there.
Wow.
It just appeared the next day.
That's really cool.
I do like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to move on.
I think it was telling us they didn't like the lima beans. Just keep bringing more of the Reese's.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
Do you blame them?
Exactly. Okay, so same area. Do you have the fence post pictures? I want to show the fence post before we talk. If you can tell. Yeah.
what is
Okay.
it?
All right.
I
So
got two. Which one?
yes.
That one first?
Yeah.
This one first?
These are in our area. Same thing. They're in our
Okay.
area. We noticed about 4 months ago, 6 months ago, that something has bent this galvanized steel pole
Yeah.
with barbed wire.
Yeah, I was going to
It's
ask you, is that
twisted.
galvanized?
It's twisted
Yes.
and bent down. There's 3 of them like this. And if you go back to the previous picture, right there, you can see where the rest of the fence is pushed down, and now there's a big game trail.
No, that's okay. Yes, now that makes sense. Now, okay, very good. I mean, what?
Now,
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
it looks like something. My first thought when I was out there the very first time we seen it, because it wasn't always like this too. That was the thing. We'd been out here many, many times, and this was perfectly fine. And then one day, it was a few months back, this appeared. And we're like, what the heck happened? So it almost looks like somebody ran a truck into it, right? I mean, that's how much damage is done to this fence. But when you're really looking at it, there are trees immediately behind where that vehicle would have had to been through.
They're not run down, right?
They're not run down. They're all in good shape.
And this is, we got this one. Now we saw that. Now this
Wow.
one. But if you look at that, you guys, nothing hit that. First of all, it's too high up for unless it was a semi truck. But what has Mother Nature didn't bend that. A human being did decide to bend that.
Something big laid down on top of that.
And
we couldn't move it. We could not move it. We couldn't budge it at all. It's almost like something was like annoyed about the barbed wire, so they just bent that portion of the fence down, and then they pushed the rest of the fence so then they can get over it. Pass through there. But
and there's
on
no
this
trees
side,
laying on top of it either.
yeah,
right?
there's no trees, no big branches, nothing that would have done anything like this. And on this side of the picture is the swamp. We're in the swamp.
Wow.
When we took this picture. The other side, you can see it's totally all these little trees.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I know you guys might have said this really quick. One of my friends, Jackie, who lives in Alaska, who's had, she's got quite a lot going on out there, asked really quick. I think you mentioned this. There's no big, heavy trees around here either. They could have felled to bend this correct. These all look like little thinner.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, there's a tree that's actually on this fence about, I don't know, another 40, 50 foot down that barely bent or didn't even bend it. It's like it's laying on top of the top rail. It didn't even bend it down. And it's a pretty good sized tree. So it just shows that it wasn't a tree, and plus the tree will still be there.
Yeah. So we don't know what this is. And I showed these pictures to Russell Accord when I saw him back in September, and he was like, he couldn't explain it either. He's like, oh my God. He goes, that's some of the craziest things I've ever seen. So he was impressed by the pictures. And there's actually 3 bent posts. And then the whole thing's shoved down, and now there's a big game trail.
And that bent part is what holds the 3 barbed wires up, or the 2 barbed wires that go across up. So they just folded it down, and it's out of the way.
And it's twisted and bent. You can see how it's twisted.
I noticed that. I did notice that. In fact,
wow.
I think it shows on the other. Well, here's one that I think is very intriguing. But we've all seen these if you've been out in the field. Look at that.
Yes, this is a fabulous arch. And what makes this one really interesting is these are cypress trees. If you look in the background, cypress trees are very skinny. They're not very branchy. The branches usually only stick out like 5 feet or so. They're just very tall, very slender trees. So how did this tree that fell, how did it take down the cypress tree that was 15, 20 feet away from it?
Right.
And it's pinned underneath. It's pinned underneath that dead tree that's on the ground. Wow.
That's interesting for sure.
It didn't take down anything else around it, but there's no reason for this arched tree to have been taken down by that falling tree. No way.
That's almost a perfect bend. And and I can't tell by the picture, but if on the far right, okay, that has to be implanted into the ground.
Yeah.
Pretty deeply to keep that taut
Yeah.
arch.
And it was
Right.
green too. It was also, the picture here doesn't show it, but there was a lot
Wow.
of greenery, so it wasn't that old.
Hmm.
And it's pinned down underneath that deadfall.
Wow. Very cool picture.
Yeah. And here's 2 casts that Mike took in his area, in our secret area. And you can see almost 16 inches long, a pair that he was able to cast. And those are his feet, so you can see just how gigantic they are.
Wow.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
Let me try to get this down real quick. So let me ask you guys. I know Marie, you mentioned earlier how you got involved was with it, like the almost like the Ohio Howl and such. So in your area where you do your research, what type of odd vocalizations have you heard? And I assume you camp out and spend the night. Have you heard any bipedal footsteps in the background, or perhaps something quadrupedically walking and then all of a sudden turns into bipedal movement or walking?
The only, like, I've never heard anything like at night. Now, in the Ocala National Forest, I was out there with a couple friends of mine during the day, and we were walking down my favorite path, and it was kind of a breezy day, and our forests are very scrawny, meaning they're not lush like Washington or whatever.
Sure.
Our oak trees and stuff are scrawny, they're brittle, they're just not dense at all. So you can easily see. All right.
Mhm.
So I'm walking down the path, and I keep hearing something walking bipedally next to me, maybe about 8 feet away. And I just kept turning, and I kept looking, but there's nothing there. This is daytime. And after a while, I just okay, I just decided I'm just going to tell my friends, whatever. They're going to think I'm crazy. So I said, I don't know about you guys, but I keep hearing something walking next to us. And they said to the left, right? And I'm like, yes. So they heard it too. So we heard something walking, paralleling us. Nothing there. We couldn't see anything. So,
Wow.
But as far as like campouts and stuff, I've never heard anything walking around. I have heard, Ruby and I heard something say, hey, out in the swamp.
Wow.
And we both heard it. And I know someone else who's also heard hey around Mayaca. They've heard that same things being said. We've heard like whistles, knocks, of course. What else, Chris?
We get a lot of the hoot owls in our area. Like we feel like they communicate with each other with, instead of the wood knocks, more they'll sound off like kind of like a barred owl almost, and they'll triangulate and then they'll stop. But that seems to be for us for vocalizations. I don't hear the big howl. It's usually just quick calls.
Yeah, so I heard the big one in Ocala, which is awesome. But pretty interesting. Now I know other group members, like Bill, Dr. Bill Hewitt has heard some things. He's had a recent. He was down in an area around Lake Okeechobee, which is South Florida, and him and Dave were in the vehicle in Bill's SUV at night. They were trying to get away from the mosquitoes, so they were just sitting in the truck, and they had a night vision camera on the front of their truck. They're sitting in this open area, and all of a sudden something slapped his driver's side window. Scared the crap out of him.
Mhm.
And then the thing walked around the vehicle and slapped the other side.
Wow.
So they had fingerprints, palm prints. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
They
that's
had-
actually not the one. That's one. That's one of mine. That's what I was going to tell you later. But since you brought it up in a story,
There. That's and
Wow.
finger
No,
finger
that's-
drags. Those are
That's
finger
not.
drags.
That's not Bill's.
Yes, it is. That's
Is
the
it?
newest one.
Oh,
These
that
are the-
one is.
truck. Is this
Yeah,
the
they're
one?
new. These are new ones, Chris.
Oh,
Wow.
he's got new ones on a different car.
Yeah,
That's
they just
cool.
happened like a month ago
Wow.
on both of their vehicles, 2 days in
Wow.
a row. So
Yeah.
Bettina had them on her car, and Bill had it on his car. This
So
is the
this-
second time they've had prints, something hit their vehicle or had left a finger drag.
Okay. Well, this one here appears to be a truck, a black truck of somebody's,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And then this one here, very similar, and they're all congruent.
Yep.
Look at this.
Yep. Finger drag.
Is that on the rear view mirror, side
Yes.
mirror?
Side mirror. Mm-hmm.
And if you look on the second one down, you can see actual,
Fingerprint.
Mm-hmm.
actual print. And then we go down one more to the red car.
Yep. That's Bettina's car, Chris. And that
Yeah.
was on her window.
Yeah, I didn't know they had another.
So was all of these captured the same day,
2 days apart.
2 days apart? Gotcha.
And they didn't notice it until like the next day, and they were just like, walking around their vehicle, or the sun hit it just right.
Mhm.
And they're like, oh my God.
Wow.
And I think
Um,
this is one of the same pictures.
That was at the nighttime when they slapped the window.
That was the nighttime, the
So-
first encounter that they had.
I'm going to tell you, when I look at these, and I'm looking at the hand, whoever's hand that is, and you look at the drag marks, to me, this looks like it was probably, in my estimation, a juvenile or a smaller one, because it's
Mhm.
kind of a thin drag. What's your thought on that?
Well, at this one,
Yeah.
the first encounter they had,
Okay.
it was big. It was a big creature because he said that it blocked out his window.
Oh, okay.
You couldn't
Yeah, 'cause
see any
He said
nighttime
that they
or anything.
slapped the window and he's looking like it scared the Jesus out of him. And he's looking
Yeah.
out the window and then can't see anything. But he's realizing he can't see stars, he can't see anything. So whatever it was standing there blocking all light coming in.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then I guess that's when it walked around.
I wanted to show you. Okay, I want to show you a comparison, and this is what my buddy Tex got doing some research in Brown Springs. Now, well, I'm not going to show that. I'll show that last.
Is that a palm print? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, those look
Yeah.
wider.
And you see where the thumb in relation is on this,
Right.
and you can really see. Now, this one here I showed you guys. You can see dermal ridges
Right.
Mhm.
in the print. See that?
Yes.
Mhm.
And
So-
Bill's first print, you can definitely see clearly dermal ridges. Very
then-
clearly.
And then this is the pride and joy, because you've got an arm, you've got fur. Look at the drags
Wow.
in this.
Mhm.
Wow. That's crazy.
Is
Yeah.
that not crazy?
Amazing.
Yeah. So when you sent me those photos of the car, I said, "Oh my gosh, this is kind of similar to
Mhm.
what we discovered." And so
Correct.
see what I love about this, how everything kind of comes together. People are doing
Mhm.
research, they're investigating, they're looking for these things, much like our group does, and you guys are doing. And now we have two teams come together, and we have similar experiences. And
Right.
these are not human beings. These
Right.
are not, at least. I mean, you could say maybe it's not Bigfoot or Sasquatch, right? I get that. People will say that, but it's not us.
Correct.
That's the thing.
Right.
Correct. Correct.
We got about a minute or and a half before we have to take our
Mhm.
our break. I'd like to get into this a little bit later, but so a quick snapshot. Since Marie, you were also a paranormal investigator, and I don't know much about Florida. as far as cryptids go and the research. When you're out there, Chris, you can answer this too as well. Everyone, we're all gung ho. We love our Bigfoot, our Sasquatch. Now, are there things out in the swamplands of Florida that kind of you think it may be a Bigfoot, but then again, it's some other creature that you don't quite get, or something more paranormal, or maybe something's trying to trick you? Because like I said, I think a lot of these things in the paranormal side like to trick people. Do you ever feel you've been tricked into a situation?
In the Green Swamp a couple of years ago, there was this one particular area that was very paranormal for some reason. I don't know why, but we would be out there and we would hear two claps like right next to us. And it's like, what the heck? What was that? You know, at night in the same spot, captured something being thrown at us, captured on night vision. It was very small, a small stick or a bone. And, you know, we all had our thermal cameras or night vision. We didn't see anything. So how did something throw a stick at us and us not see it on our thermal cameras or night vision? We can't explain that stuff. So we've had some strange stuff happen out there.
Well,
Plus a picture of with Civil War.
Yeah.
Something, I don't know what you want to call it, but there's a picture of somebody took a picture of Marie and there was something standing behind her.
Yeah, there was an apparition behind me. It looked like a soldier, like a kid wearing an old Civil War hat or something.
We got to get into this Civil War conversation, and I got to take guys. I love the Civil War. I just did a video on something similar, and I know Chris is into this. We have to take our 5-minute break, and this is our new 5-minute break. Everybody, leave me a comment, see what you think about it. But now, of course, I can't find the damn thing. I'm ready, running over. Here we go. I don't know, everybody. That's pretty sweet, I think. Thank you to Tex for putting that together. It was time to get rid of the old one, and we got some updates for the shows. And speaking of the shows, it is on Mondays. It is Texas Front Porch. You find Tex 7 Central, 8 in the East, new time on Monday. Tuesday nights, Beyond BMR and Krista, 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock in the East. Wednesdays is the Diva Dimension, Danielle Diva on Texas Front Porch, 9 Central, 10 in the East. And if you would, I seen Duke brought it up earlier in the chat. Danielle's in a hospital. She's sick. I'm going to leave it at that, so she could use some prayers. I'm going to leave it at that. As I said, I don't know any further details on Miss Diva's condition. Thursdays, Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, and Tex, 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock in the East. And, of course, Saturday, Infamous Minds with Tex and Danielle Diva. That's 2 o'clock Central in the East, 2 o'clock Central, and 3 in the East on Texas Front Porch. I also want to thank new BMR Pirates today that joined in my membership. That would be... who is that? Catherine and Blazer. Thank you for joining up, becoming a pirate. And also thank you to the lovely Amy for her super chat. It's a great way to help support what we do around here. It is mostly appreciated. And all the illustrations in that was from Jason McLean. So Jason's a fantastic artist. And in fact, I got to reach back at me. He also did the artwork for my book, everybody. My newer book, Bigfoot Michigan Rob Presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. Fast, cool artistry by Jason. It's on Amazon. The link's in this description of this video. It's also pinned to the top. For those of you that bought the book already, thank you ever so much for that. And when Amazon hits up your email, don't delete it. Leave me a review, because everything is analytics these days. The more reviews I get, whether they're positive or negative, helps promote book sales. So I do appreciate that. And yes, Maggie R., who is also a pirate member with BMR herself. So with that being said, fantastic show. Krista, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Great show. Marie, how are you? And of course, Chris, I want to thank both of you for coming out
Yeah.
spending your evening with us. It's a fantastic show. A lot of
Thank
great
you.
response in the chat room. They're loving you guys. They're loving the pictures. They're loving your.
I was gonna say I'm enjoying the pictures. You guys have some great
Yeah,
captions.
I've got a lot of more pictures to go. To show. Yeah, Marie. Hey, Marie sent me what she said. You want it? Marie says, "Hey, Rob, you want a couple pictures?" I said, "Oh yeah." You know,
I
72
said like
pictures,
40 of them.
72 pictures later. It took me longer to download them than do this show.
Hey,
No,
we're out in the field a lot.
Yeah,
so.
I love it. We'll get back to that in a minute.
Mhm.
And again, I cut you off because I told you I was going to, because it always happens when we have to do that break. We were talking about the Civil War and paranormal. My brain is losing it. Someone want to refresh me on that, Krista?
So,
Talking about
in the Green
Go ahead.
Swamp,
Yeah, there we go.
at the
Yeah.
time we had, the sticker or whatever thrown at us.
Yeah.
And but I think Ruby took a picture of me, and there was an apparition behind me, and I invited them. I'm like, okay, if there's anybody here with us, can you come hang out with us? We'd love to see you. Blah blah blah. She takes a picture. There he is. He looks like a teenager that was probably in the war. Looked like he had a Civil War hat on and stuff. And
The scarf around the neck. I mean, you can make it out plain as day.
oh yeah,
It's
Wow.
not a blurry picture. It's better than any Bigfoot picture I've seen other than Patty. It's
Yeah.
actually very clear.
so
So
So-
Rob, you got that picture to show?
no, I don't have that one.
No. Yeah,
Gotcha.
no, didn't see that one. Hey, before we got a few more of the pictures you sent, let me ask you both. Of course, we all have heard this. I don't know. It's just hearsay, right? Some people believe this, some people don't. And from the first hour of the show, everything you've come across has been pretty laid back, non-threatening. Do you buy into the fact that the skunk ape of Florida is a little more aggressive because of the fact that they're hanging out in the swamps, the Everglades, high humidity, and they're just a little more rambunctious, and they definitely don't want to be fooled around with at all compared to some of the northern states?
Well, we always say when we go to the Everglades, it's the most dangerous place on earth, and
Everything there wants to kill you.
everything there wants to kill you. Everything. So, you've got python snakes, monster python snakes. You've got Florida panthers. You've got, like I said, everything is out to get you. And
Giant alligators, crocodiles.
giant alligators and crocodiles, and it's so they have to be aggressive in order to survive out there, because everything's out to eat each other, and it's very dangerous. It's a very creepy, dangerous place.
Well, that's just the thing too. Here in the north where I live, you go out in the woods. I mean, outside of Bigfoot, the other predator out there, unfortunately, could be a human being, right?
Yes.
Because we don't have, where I live, especially where I go, there's not snakes. We don't have alligators. We don't have any, we don't, and where I live, there's no cougars, there's no panthers. We have the alleged black panther that every Christmas time appears in someone's backyard, which, by the way, there is actual video on that.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I get that. So, but it seems to me that if I was a researcher in Florida, I don't know that I could concentrate on the research simply because I don't know if I'm going to step on a snake.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to step
We've
through.
done it. We've done that.
Have you ever stepped through something that appeared to be land and you fell into a marshy swamp and then worry about an alligator? See, I'd be worried about
Been
that.
stuck in the mud.
Get stuck in the mud. That's the biggest thing.
Wow.
It's almost like a certain spots, almost like quicksand kind of thing. And Chris well knows, we've all done it, is you get stuck in the mud and you start sinking and you cannot get out. So what, you lost your boots, right? Pulled
Yeah,
your
I haven't
boots off?
basically. Yeah, I had Mike. Luckily, had basically handed me a stick to pull me out, because sometimes you can't tell when that mud is really
Can't.
deep, and
Wow.
you find out the hard way. But
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
stable, and then you step in it, and you're like, oh
you
no.
sink.
And you're sinking, and it's thick, and you can't get your foot
The,
out.
the problem is you're in motion, so when you get stuck in it, and all of a sudden now you're trying to move forward, and your foot doesn't go, and you just lose balance, and you about
Yeah.
basically come right out of your boots.
Yeah, again, I would not
And-
like that.
And
Yeah.
we're tripping on cypress knees out there as well.
Stepping
Wow.
on
Those are
snakes. You
daggers.
mentioned that.
Snakes.
We have stepped on snakes before. Literally.
We've stepped on rattlesnakes and water
Wow.
moccasin.
Mm.
Water moccasin.
Wow. Have you guys ever encountered anything while you're out? Anything that you would think it's other than Bigfoot, like a dog man or anything like that?
Just once, and I was out in the green swamp by myself, and I was walking around, and I found this huge canine print, biggest one I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 4 inches
Mm-hmm.
and 4 or 5 inches. It was pretty. It was the biggest canine print I have ever
Sure.
seen, and there's just one, and it was in bushes and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, what is this? Now, I've heard rumors. I don't know about this, but back in the day, I think that the forestry department had released some wolves. I don't know if they were trying to revitalize the area with wolves or something. It could be a, remnant out
Sure.
there of a wolf, or it could be something else.
Mhm.
So the Green Swamp also has, some people call it Skinwalker Swamp, and because there's been UFOs that have been seen
Wow.
out there, there's been aliens that have been seen out there. So
Mm.
Wow.
Skinwalker, Florida, for sure.
yeah,
We were out one night. It was just Marie and I, and then we were doing a little bit of a night investigation. But it was kind of we were sitting at, not out in a field and just kind of seeing if anything would come to
Mhm.
us. And we heard this scream that scared the bejesus out of both. We look at each other like, what was that?
yeah.
It sounded like a woman's blood curdling scream for probably like 2 seconds. It wasn't super long, but it was enough to make your hair stand on end.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't know what it was. We have no
Mhm.
idea, but it was one of those things that makes
But
you
that
wonder.
area also, Mike had a partial sighting there as well, in that same area where he
Wow.
thinks he ran into one, and at night, and so we know they're around there, but we don't
Wow.
know.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
Interesting.
going to ask you guys what was like your most terrifying night. It could be anything.
Terrifying.
Yeah, where you thought, man, why am I out here?
I
You know?
haven't had that yet.
Well, that's great.
I haven't been terrified out there. Mm-mm.
Then again, you don't seem like you would be. Krista and Brandy are never terrified.
I'm not
I'd be
scared of
hiding.
that
I'd
stuff.
be hiding behind them in some of these haunted
Not of
places.
ghosts.
Yeah. Now, see, I'm the other way around. I'm with Rob here. You get ghost involved, and I'm out. See ya.
Well, the ghosts is one thing. When I've seen my share of ghosts, and which some have creeped me out. But my thing is, when you talk to paranormal, I always say this: that the evil aspect to it. It's just,
But not all are evil, Rob.
I know they're not.
No,
all
they're
the
not.
stuff,
They're not at
all
all.
all
They're
the
not
things
at
that I
all.
watch. It's just that this is
You
my
watch too
hang.
many movies.
That's my
Right.
hang up.
Yes.
Yes, that's
That's
my
not the
hang
way
up.
it is. That's not the way it.
Not
I'm
at
more
all.
terrified of humans.
But I will tell you this, and
Out
just
there.
not. No, I'm not really. I'm making myself look like a wimp. My thing is this: I believe in God. I believe in the devil. Right? You got they're hand in hand if you believe in God. And like I always tell Krista, I believe when I watch because I talk to a lot of people, and I'm trying to get a person on. By the way, Krista, the exorcisms. When you're possessed, that stuff, you
Mhm.
guys. It took me 30 years before I finally watched the Linda Blair movie.
Exorcist.
And I watched The Exorcist, and I watched it at 12 in the afternoon with all the lights on. This is like because I believe that does go on. So when I say the paranormal, that to me, that's what gets me.
Mhm.
Right.
That's not your normal paranormal, though.
No.
Well, yeah, but you never know.
Just remember, the demonic is out there, but they're very few and far between.
Yeah, I know. You guys always tell me that.
Again, you got to be afraid of the living, not the dead.
Right.
But then I also found this out too. The more experience I get with this, if you show fear, then fear will
Yep.
overtake you.
Absolutely.
So it's always good to keep in the back of your head when you're doing any research, whether it's paranormal or cryptid.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go through here. Okay, here. God, I'm so bad at putting these. Okay, here's the very first one you sent me.
Okay, this is what we just casted this weekend.
Mhm.
The weekend before, I was out with Ruby, and I found these tracks, and they're just like in a circle in an area, so there's no real stride. But these are really deep. These are like 6 inches deep,
I
Yeah.
noticed that. Yeah.
and they don't look that big, but they're at least 12 inches, and some of those toes are really dug deep in the ground, and it just
Almost
didn't make sense.
kind of like it curled up the toe a little bit. You know,
Mhm.
that is interesting though about the circle.
Yeah, it was just kind of like just walking around. That's
And then if you look, is that another print right in the center of the circle?
Well, right here, there's 1, 2, 3, 6 in this
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
There's 6 in the picture.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is pretty cool.
And I can't tell by the picture, but the one in the bottom in the middle, to me it looks like, is that water in there? Like it.
Oh yeah, it's a
So it
mud.
was fresh, I guess is my point
Yes.
being.
Yes, it was. I would say probably a week or two, couple weeks,
Mhm.
2, 3 weeks maybe, because yeah, very fresh. This is mud,
Mhm.
and it's near the river, so it's wet. It's wet,
Gotcha.
and Chris was playing with some foam. He was using insulation foam.
Mhm.
He was trying to cast a print to see what would happen. He's had pretty good luck in the past, but in this scenario, the foam did not dry very well, right, Chris?
Yeah, the plaster seemed like it actually performed better than the foam, because usually the foam does pretty good. It dries up pretty quick. You can just pick it up and go.
Mhm.
But because of the moisture underneath, and then I always put a board, like a backer board, and then put some weight on it so the foam expands down into the print. But it did not want to dry. It just, it was too wet for it. And eventually
I would
did, but it just took a while.
I would imagine where you guys do your research is pretty. I've got another casting here. I'm going to pull up here in a few minutes, but I imagine it is the prints that you find, obviously like this one, are all because of the mud and the water. It might even be. Is that harder to cast, Stephen?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I'm sure
Hard
you
to
don't
find.
find.
They're hard to find. I mean, a lot of our substrates just loaded with leaves and
Yeah.
piles and piles of just stuff that's in the substrate. You walk on it and it just sponges right back up. So to find muddy prints is it's gold when we do find them.
Okay.
Wow.
But it may have water in it because of that, because these are in the swamp, right? So
Right.
that's the struggle, is trying to cast these prints when you've got really wet mud.
Mhm.
That's the problem. So
Wow.
now these are the 3 sticks, the original. Remember I was talking about
Yep.
when we first started?
Okay. Yeah.
The 2 at the top were the original ones from like 2 years ago. The one at the bottom is the 3rd one that's been added. And then there's a 4th one laying on the ground, but there's 3 shoved in the ground. These are like 10, 12 feet long. This is not tree fall.
Mm-hmm.
These sticks do not impale themselves in the ground at a 30-degree angle, pointing in the exact same direction.
Right. Wow.
Very, very weird.
And they're down there like 10 to 12 inches into the mud.
Yeah, I think these were pointed south. I think
that,
we were pointed south.
and that's a great thing when people could say, Yeah, it's just tree fall. Someone threw it in there. And when you talk about something that's literally impaled, for lack of a better word, 3 feet into the ground, that was put there with force. And none of us can, and Chris, you or I couldn't do it. You and I together, we would struggle to get a foot, right?
Yeah. Mike pulled one out and he couldn't even get it back in as deep as it was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
these were all like the same length, which is really odd too. 10 to 12 feet long. It's very hard to find any kind of branch like that out there in the swamp. So it must have probably taken it from somewhere else and
Brought it.
put it there. And
Well,
that's by our gifting area too.
Well, let me ask you guys the arches, these sticks, the way they're placed, the placement of sticks and such, and even the big X structures that we all see. What's your opinion behind that? I think that's a form of communication myself. Maybe it's marking a territory. What do you guys think that's
Directionals.
navigational compass, perhaps?
Sometimes, yes. Communication, yes.
And
We
this
find
would
that the X's are kind of like a warning to stay out.
keep away or stay out.
Do you think they're up there against people or other Bigfoots?
Yeah, I think maybe both, depending on where it's placed. You know, there was a situation when COVID started, they closed the forest for like 3 months, and I got laid off work because of COVID. So the moment I heard that the forest was open, Ocala National Forest was back open, I'm like, okay, come on, let's go check it out and see, because there hasn't been humans around, right?
Right.
And there was a black bear walking down the middle of the road, didn't have a care in the world. And so I went down my favorite path and didn't see anything interesting. Went back a week later, all hell broke loose. My path, there were 5 freshly broken trees laid one after the other across the path.
Wow.
And then some bushes were pushed into the path. And then a small tree off to the side was bent over and pinned down underneath the one of the trees that was in the path. But before all that was a big X on the left-hand side.
Wow.
So maybe they noticed we were there the week before, and they're like, stay out. We enjoy you not being here. Go away. They blocked the whole path in just 1 week. So
wow, that's interesting.
Now, in the case of the little teeny tiny X, it could be like what Chris says is like, hey, don't, either
we're not digging the beans.
We're not digging the beans, or this is my spot. Everything else keep away. Now, those 3 sticks, we had 2 sets of 3 sticks, and it originally started with 2. So I think that is the family unit. I think they were like identifying there's 3 of us here.
Okay.
Because this is all in our gifting area.
Okay.
Cool.
So, don't know. But I think it's more about the placement, where it's placed, and then trying to analyze and figure out why.
Sure.
Why is this here? So, I don't know. We're all speculating. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of this is. And I had a guy on the show, Pork and Beans. That's the name of his channel, but I forgot his name. And he had 1 million of these such sticks, but they all had different configurations. They were like shaped in triangles, X's, boxes, circled.
I have that too.
Yeah, and it's like, and I got to tell you, it's nobody doing this.
No.
I mean, who's going to waste your time doing that? I would help.
No.
Sure as hell wouldn't.
No.
But I think as a form of communication, I agree. And that's the mystery. Here's another cool picture that I really liked. I like them all, but this one here is a pretty cool print here.
Yes.
Casting, I should say.
Yes. And it looks better in real life because the toes are really angled down. Those are some creepy toes. Okay. This
I
was
noticed
also
it.
in our research area.
And is that 4 toes too? Is that or is that
I
there's a
think it's
spike?
5. I think
Yeah,
there's 5.
yeah. Because there once there's a I see 4 for sure, and then maybe
Yeah.
the one by the
Little
pinky.
one.
Pinky
Yeah.
is down a
Yeah,
little
might have
bit.
got
Yeah.
messed up a little bit.
Right. And that's a 13 by 6 print. And but the toes are what's really compelling about this one.
Yeah.
And of course the width of it. But
Mhm.
the toes, just how angled down they are, it's
Mhm.
crazy. It's crazy.
Wow.
And again, a lot of these because this is not the first casting you showed on this, or spoken on during the show, and I'm thinking they're because of your environment. I'm thinking they really need to dig those toes and curl them down simply because of the terrain. You think that's a reasoning because most of them are more flat, right? Like we always see, but it seems like they're in the south or in Florida that maybe this is just an extra way to grip when they're walking, right?
Right.
If you're
And they
walking
may
through
be,
mud,
yeah,
Yeah.
they're walking through crazy substrate. And, they may also climb.
Yep.
They, I definitely, in the Everglades, they definitely climb trees. So,
Wow.
Okay, we saw that one.
Okay, this is a
There's-
really interesting one. If you want to talk about this one,
Yeah.
Green Swamp, out investigating near a swamp, and we found a deer carcass. So we were like checking out the deer carcass, and Ruby
Hey,
says,
Marie, really
Yes.
quickly, the last slide. One of my werewolf asked about that last casting if that was in mud when you casted it.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, well, leaves, and
Yeah.
because that's
Oh well,
what
yeah,
there is
but
out there.
yep, gotcha.
Leaves and
That's what I
substrate.
assumed. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So Ruby says, "Hey, look at this." So we turned around, and about 5 feet away from the carcass were these 3 bones shoved in the ground. These are standing up.
Wow.
These
Oh,
are
there's-
standing up.
Oh, okay.
So you can see Ruby's finger. She's pulling the bone out of the ground, the middle
Wow.
bone. Those are sticking straight up. It's
Okay.
almost like, when you eat chicken wings
Right.
and you take the meat off the bone and you put it off to the side on the side of your plate or in a bowl.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what this was. It's like,
Hmm.
what? Did it just eat off the bone and just shove it over
Wow.
to the side? No explanation why these 3 bones are standing straight up. In this
Not
picture, they
really.
look like they're laying down, but they're standing straight up.
Wow. Very
Yeah.
cool.
No. Yeah. Thanks for that explanation because I was wondering. But yeah.
Have you guys found any hair samples or anything?
Yes. Yeah, on like barbed wire and things
Mhm.
like that. Actually, I think Mike actually had a hair on a peanut butter cup wrapper, but I think it got lost because it was just one hair.
Yeah.
But it was a long, dark hair. So,
Wow.
unfortunately.
Mm.
Yeah.
It seems to me too. Again, I'm just thinking about since I've never been in the forest or the Everglades or the jungle of Florida. It would seem like a hair sample or something would either be easy or hard to find because of the fact that let's say that I've got to imagine, you say skunk ape. Maybe skunk ape has something to do with the smell. They're probably always damp, probably in and out of the
Mhm.
creeks and the swamps. And if they brush up against a tree, they're full of mud. And maybe they do leave a hair sample, but it's coated with mud, gets ground into the tree, and might be even harder. Have you come across any trees where they're packed with mud, which looks
No.
like something brushed against it, where you think that maybe it could be something leaned against it, some sort of animal? It doesn't necessarily have to be Sasquatch.
No, I have never seen that. The only place we've ever found hairs were, we actually thought we had a hair in a spider web, but it turned out to be a type of moss, right, Chris?
yeah, it's actually part of the the palm fronds. like the fibers off of a palmetto
Mhm.
leaf
Mhm.
actually came off, and yeah, we put it under the microscope and checked it all out.
But typically, the only place we really can find them are on like barbed wire fences.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Hmm. This is a print that I found.
Wow.
Okay. I'm gonna blast through some of these. So we're
But
getting
you see how
close.
wet it is. It's still
Mhm.
wet.
I've noticed everything about all these is wet. I noticed the dampness in
Hmm.
the forest, and this is cool. I seen this. You got the width, and I
Yeah.
definitely, and then you've got
Mhm.
the other one.
Yeah. I
with
can't
That's a
remember
good
the
example
measurement.
of that's
14
a
by
good
6.
example of what we see though. You see nice big impressions.
Yeah.
You can tell something's been there. Everything's compressed. Takes some weight because a lot of times we'll step right next to it and it just sponges right back up. So it takes some weight to create that. But that's pretty much what we find more often than not. Is
Right.
exactly
I
that.
gotta tell you guys. So I give you guys a lot of credit because, especially those two images there, or I don't know that I'd spot that. I mean, because if you look at that, you really are investigating this. I can tell you're looking because that to me, I would pass right over. I don't know about you, Krista, but I was just like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
whatever. And so I commend you guys for the diligence that you put into this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all very observant.
Yeah.
We're very all pretty
Absolutely.
observant.
Hmm.
Well, here's the question. We're getting
You guys definitely
getting
have some
close to the
great
end.
captures.
Yeah, no, you
Thank
got
you.
great captures. You're
Thank you.
great guests. I really am a fan. And when I'm in Florida, I'm looking you two up because
Of course.
But
You
let me
better.
ask. I always like to ask people this controversial question.
Uh-oh.
Bigfoot, and you can
Bigfoot.
say, yeah, Sasquatch, flesh and blood, paranormal,
Woo.
the woo, alien. What is it?
Chris, you want to go ahead with your theory?
Well, I'm gonna go with. I think there's something more than what we don't know. I think Grizzly had a really good analogy one time. There's something we don't understand about them. I think they are some flesh and blood, but I think there's something beyond that. We know that the maternal side's been identified as human. The father side we don't know, and that's the big question. But his analogy was like, okay, imagine back in the day, caveman finding an electric eel. You pick it up, the hell, that thing's magic. What is that? There's something about it they didn't understand. There's something more to Bigfoot than what we understand. Whether they can vanish into portals, whether they can just hide with their hair, whatever. But there's something way beyond
Sure.
just being a big ape walking around the woods, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think they're flesh and blood, but I do think that they have special abilities that would be considered paranormal to
Mhm.
us. So maybe the turning sideways, they're able to camouflage themselves really well with their hair shifting. There's just too many things, like the stick being thrown at us. I mean,
Sure.
but we couldn't see anything. But yeah, I do think they're flesh and blood because there's plenty of evidence out there. Footprints. You
Yeah.
can't explain, what's making those giant big footprints, and the strange structures, the things we find out there. We're places where typically there's not many humans around. And but I do think they do have some kind of paranormal abilities, which are natural. It's just like a chameleon. If a green chameleon stood on my phone, he would turn blue.
Mhm.
That's just a natural ability. But back in the
Yeah.
day, it was probably, ooh, what is that? Some crazy
Yeah.
paranormal ability.
Mhm.
So maybe they have that. They have
know,
special abilities.
Well, paranormal is anything but normal. So
Right.
for us, it's not normal because we
I
don't
mean,
understand it.
I mean, you
Right.
could. I mean,
Because
if
we don't
you,
understand it. Yeah.
well, number one, I'm not in the ape camp at all, and you could call that a paranormal being because anything that we don't know is considered paranormal.
Hmm.
I'm not a believer of the ape camp. I think there's some sort of human hybrid. I think that I think they can cloak. This is a subject we didn't even talk about tonight. We don't have time. Maybe next time. I think that they can be multidimensional. I believe that. I believe in that they can transport. I think they can convert their mass into energy and go quickly from one plane to another. I believe the trees are a, a portal for a lot of these beings, right? So I think that human hybrid with paranormal abilities myself. I don't think it's one or the other. Now, the one that I saw, you guys, I probably could have shot it. It would have bled, but then what it turned into after my sighting was again something that was kind of paranormal.
Mhm.
And I'll have to tell you guys a story if you have never heard it before down the road. But yeah, so I'm not on one side. I'm right in the middle with it. I really think
Yeah.
they've got these abilities, and I do think that they are a physical creature at the same time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Last year at an investigation around Lake Okeechobee, I had 2 nights in a row orbs, big orbs. I had a huge, like basketball size, bright LED white orb that flashed in front of the canopy of the tree that I was looking directly at.
Wow.
And then it started moving. It moved across the trees, past the trees. And when it was passing the trees, it changed to like a softball size white orb.
Hmm.
And it was just going down the line. And there were no fireflies out that day. And a firefly is not that big, it's not the size of a basketball. And it went behind some bushes. And I'm like, where did it go? Where did it go? And it came out behind the bush as a firefly, one single green light firefly. And it comes towards me. It's flying
Wow.
towards me, and I'm talking to it. I'm like, oh, hey, what are you doing? I've never had a firefly come directly at me.
Hmm.
It got within 4 feet of me. It turned right to my shoulder, disappeared, gone,
Wow.
gone.
Wow.
Wow,
But it started with an orb that was the size
Mhm.
of a basketball.
Yeah.
amazing!
Can't
And
explain
again,
that.
you know you
Nope.
can't. And again, we could go for another 2 hours.
Mhm.
Speaking of orbs, aliens, UFOs, and their
Mhm.
relationship or not with cryptids or Bigfoot. But with that being said, where can we find you guys, people out in chat or people listening later, outside of where can we find if we want to look you guys up?
Okay, so I'll go first. Mid Florida Bigfoot Research Group on Facebook and YouTube. On YouTube, I post short little research videos, like 1 to 3 minutes long typically.
Okay.
I'm not posting these videos of us just walking and talking.
Mhm.
I'm showing you something we found, something very interesting. So I'll just do a quick little video, put it on YouTube so you can see it. So it's a good place to look. And I'm also on Instagram, Mid Florida Bigfoot Research Group. I also have a website, midfloridabigfoot.com. And there you can see a lot more photos, all the podcasts, publications, conferences that we've attended, all the members of our team, some blogs. So that's
Cool.
it for me. And
Yeah,
Chris,
and
you
Marie,
want-
really quickly, if you would, later on tonight, tomorrow, send me those links. And what I'll do is I'll
Sure.
edit that and put it into this video for
Okay.
people to
Mhm.
see as well. There's a lot
All
more
right.
people are going to watch this later.
Good.
Yep.
And Chris, do you want to talk about yours?
For me, of course, I'm in Florida Bigfoot Research, as well as I've got a Facebook group, Cryptid Cowboys, and then on Grizzly on the Hunt, it's Paranormal Conspiracy or Cryptid and Conspiracies. Monday nights with Grizzly, and on Wednesday night we do breaking news. So I'll send you some links as well. For
Yeah,
that.
thanks. I appreciate that. And I was on Grizzly show, as I mentioned earlier. I like that show. Pretty good guy. And for us, well, I'll get with Chris the last. Me Thursday, I got a cool show Thursday, everybody. Me and Tux at 1:00. We've got Robin Moonshadow, and she investigates. She's a researcher on the little people and puck wedgies.
Cool.
and all these little creepy little cryptids that run around that are very dangerous. And she actually and proto pygmies. So that is going to be a really pretty cool show. 1:00 Thursday in the East. And Krista, I know you got the Blondes and Booze coming up Thursday and Friday. What you got going real quickly?
Honestly, since starting my new job, I don't even know who we have this week. I haven't had a chance to look.
So that means you're going to be calling me.
Yeah.
Maybe. At one night, I don't know if it's Thursday or Friday, we have Tom and Rye.
From Frequency, the Frequency podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, I was on their show. They're good guys. They live in
one of
Mexico.
those nights, and then the other night, I don't remember.
Yeah, Ryan. Shout out to them for the Frequency High Frequency podcast. They live in Mexico, and they have a lot of chupacabra encounters or experiences.
Yeah.
So that should be fun for you, Krista. I wanted to thank people that became BMR Pirates, which was Catherine and Blazer. And I also want to thank Amy for the super chat. That is awesome. Don't forget my book. Links are all in the description. Thanks for those that bought it. Thank you to Marie and Chris, man, for a fantastic show tonight.
Thank you so much for having us.
I know. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the photographs. I enjoyed your stories, your background, your theory. Right? It's all what we come up in the woods, and you can't have a good theory unless you don't do the research, and that's really what I appreciate with you guys. You're not just sitting there behind a keyboard and saying, "Hey, I think Bigfoot's this or that." I mean, yeah, okay, whatever. Next. With that being said, thank you to Krista, Marie, Chris. I am BMR. Until next time, we're out.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.